So we're recording. Um, so I'm going to do most of the work tonight in Lightroom, and I may switch to Photoshop for a while, and inside in Photoshop I will move into the Camera Raw, and it's the very same thing. Camera Raw is the exact same thing. Um, Camera Raw is the exact same thing as Lightroom. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to move through these. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the images we're going to work through. So that's St. Paul's Cathedral, and I'm just going to show you the starting and the finished images. I have a range of images now because some images, are quite hard to convert more than others. Some are quite easy, some are quite hard. I'd find this one quite hard now because, inside here you have the trees, and green can be a very difficult color to get separation in. So that's the start image. Then we're going to look at this image. There's the start image. And these are the images that we're going to work through. You might have all seen this image belong to me. So that was the Mont Saint Michel image. That was the start image. So I'm going to process that image to hopefully try and get something very similar. This is a very difficult image to convert. I was having a go off of this earlier. Something like that. Haven't done that one. This one, when I go to Venice, I do a workshop. This is an image that I look at. So I processed this on my phone. So I'm actually going to try and, if we get to it, to process it in Lightroom. So these are just examples that we're going to go through. So you can see that image came out of that shot. And that image came out of that shot. Okay. So I want to talk about contrast. Okay. Mary Flanagan. So I want to talk about contrast. So contrast is what? I'm just going to minimize that there now. So contrast for me is vital in black and white. So what we're going to do, just to convert the image to black and white, we're going to just hit the BW there. Okay. No, the keep is in. We could desaturate. Okay. We want to dash. We could hit the BW. And we also have options over here then. We have different options. They give us slightly different contrasts. I'm sorry, no, my dogs are down below. So I just want to get off them. So we'll just go for the BW. Now, where am I going to take the image? That's the question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the contrast. And the contrast will allow me see where the blacks and the whites are. Can you see that? Now, by doing that, it allows me to see, where the moody parts are. So there's a lovely sky there.
Yeah.
There's a lovely sky. So I like the sky now in this particular setting, but I don't like the foreground because it's too dark. So the sky I like. So when we talk about contrast, have a look at the histogram. So what contrast basically is, it's making the blacks darker and it's making the whites whiter. And if you look at the histogram up here, this is the black and this is the white. When we move the contrast, it's spreading in both directions. And your blacks are getting deeper and your whites are getting brighter. Now, this is great. This is great, but we only have so much control because the blacks and the whites are moving together. If we come down and we move the blacks separately, and the whites separately, we have a much finer control. So throughout this, I'm going to talk about the blacks and the whites. Basically, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about bringing tone into the sky. bringing tone into the picture, revealing detail, and we're going to do that by we could go with the clarity slider. That does a holy show. That does a holy lot, but it's bringing out detail, by sharpening the midtones, basically. Now, we can use that in places, but if we can bring out tones, let's just say that's a starting point. Now, there's lovely tones in the sky. Let's just say we're going to bring a grad down the sky. And we know there's lovely black tones. And we know there's lovely white tones. We're going to bring those out. So for me, black and white, it's all about bringing out these tonal values that are locked in there in the pixels. Let's do another one in the sky. I'm happy to take questions there now, guys, as you go along. So Moody. In here, I can see that there's lovely tones in there. I'm going to do a radial filter in there.
Hi, Rodney, it's Paul. So,
Hey, Paul.
is it then that you would rarely use the contrast, that you better control using the separate blacks and whites, or is there a situation you'd use the contrast in?
No, I will use it, Paul, and I take it so far with the contrast, and then I might come and use the blacks and the whites separately.
Cool, thank you.
And that's just my way. I suppose, there's so many different ways of doing it, So I guess
Oh yeah, no, I get that, but no.
Yeah, I like
it's good to see it in operation.
It is, and that's what this is all about. I could come in here and I could go to A to Z of black and white and Lightroom. That's not good to anybody. If you only pick up one or two things from the way I do it, it's not about that's really what it's about. It's about showing you how I do it, and maybe that might help, you guys as well. So so we can bring down the exposure, but it really kills it. So I tend to just use the blacks. So now we have a pretty good tone in the image now. Something I like to do quite a lot is I like to use radial filters. So I like to direct the light. So in this instance, I'm going to invert this, and I'm going to maybe just some of these different. I'm going to bring that down like that. Can you see how I'm adding tone in the sky? And very simply, I would say no. Like, I haven't added any clarity. All I've done is, geez, what happened there? Oh yeah, there it is. I haven't added any clarity. All I've done is worked with the blacks and whites. Sorry, no, I think my touchpad is on. Like, my touchpad is on there. Sorry.
Pardon? Yeah, I'm on it. Yeah.
So, as you can see, if we close that down and we go to develop and we look at the before and after, not too far off of what I brought out. So tonal values. Again, let's look at another one. So I've made just a few adjustments there now, and we got a very contrasty black and white, lots of tonal values. So this is the starting image on the right. I use a pin there now and a tablet, so it's just jumping around me there a small bit. My apologies. Okay. So again, we're going to convert this to black and white. Just hit BW. I want to see where the contrast is. There's somebody coming through there, guys, in the background. If you might just mute there, whoever's coming through, it'd be great. So you can see there's there's a lovely sky going on there, but it makes this area too dark. Okay. So what we will do is we'll just give it Paul, you were asking there now about the contrast. So we're just going to go as far as that with the contrast there. Now I'm going to bring out some detail in the sky with a grad. And I'm going to adjust the blacks. I'm going to deepen the blacks. Small bit of, very small bit of white. No, we've lost a little bit down here. So I'm going to try and reclaim a bit of that. Actually, we're going to go, yeah, I'm going to reclaim a bit of that. There's no set way, you know. So we're going to come up and instead of opening the shadow, if we just tease that back out, can you see by moving the blacks, we're just bringing that detail back in? Yeah. Maybe a bit more. Radial. I love to use radial filters. I suppose what I can see in this instance here now is there's a kind of a line coming diagonally down. So what I might do, something I like to do personally, is I'd like to create one in that direction. And I'll create one coming up from the bottom as well to match that. It's almost like a diagonal sandwich. I like to get the viewer. I want to get the viewer in here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a radial filter. So I've darkened around the edges. And I'm going to push the white. So instead of, I want to brighten the middle. So instead of doing that with the exposure, I tend to use the whites. I'm going to be careful there now because we're losing detail there. So we'll just push the whites here. Need to be careful. I'm going to soften the blacks a little bit there with a brush. And it's very much to the eye. I'm going to soften this area a little bit just to reveal a little bit. Or something like that. As you can see, we don't have any black point as such. So you might say it's very black and white, but we're well off of a black point. We're right close to the white point, but we don't have any black point. I would probably enhance this a little further inside in Photoshop. Someone on chat there. Does anyone want to come in there, guys? Do you want to come in and chat or anything? So this is the image that I made in Mont Saint Michel. And this is the start image. Okay. Now I shot the image in black and white, so that's how it would have looked in my camera. But when you bring in a raw file, obviously the raw file turns straight to color. So I'm going to process this image to try and make it something along those lines. Okay. So I think the first thing, we'll have a look at the contrast. And by doing this, it shows me, where I might go with it. And obviously you can see this area, I ended up very much with that area there, very black and white. That was the key to the image, really. So that's where we want to go. So we don't have enough contrast. Is there someone coming in there? Nope. Okay. So we're going to back off. So I'm going to give it a small, that's the highlight. I'm going to give it a small bit of contrast. I'm going to darken the sky. linear gradient. So my thought process is darken the sky, darken the grass, leaving this area bright and brightening this area. So dark, dark, bright. So the eye will automatically go. If we go back and have a look, no, the eye will go in here. It will go along the bright area and it will go in here. The idea of the dark sky is to hold the viewer in here and not let them out. Okay. So we darken the sky. Hang on, there's anything happening there. Okay, darken the sky. We will darken the foreground with a gradient. No, I'm just going to use the blacks and the whites. And you can see we're getting a bit of contrast there. Bit more black. Okay, I wouldn't worry about it going too black. We can fix that. Okay. I think I need to crop it a small bit. That. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So I've taken these out. I've done that in Photoshop. So we're going to have to go into Photoshop with this one for some fine tuning. So I've darkened here. I've darkened there. Brightened that area. Now I want to brighten this area. So we'll use a radial gradient. I'll pull the radial gradient across. Now I'm not going to brighten the area by using the exposure. I'm going to brighten the area by pushing the whites. Like that. That makes push the whites. Now we're drawing the eye in here. Okay. Just thinking. Okay, at this stage, I think we'll go into Photoshop. Right click, edit in Photoshop. So again, I've just played with the blacks, played with the whites. Can everybody see Photoshop?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got rid of these guys. Okay. So quite quickly, we'll just get rid of those. That's the remove tool. It's does a fantastic job. I just didn't want anything taking the eye, basically. Okay. That fellow there has to go as well. Just remove him just like that. It was actually a tint, actually. And when we went up after our morning shoot the following morning, you know, we had the reflections in the sand, and that bloody tint was right in front of us. So it had to go, like, you know, you couldn't just leave that there. So yeah. Okay. So I've lost a little bit of detail in here. So again, there's easy ways and hard ways, and there's you know, there's impressive ways of doing things. I think I just prefer to do them you know, easy. So we're going to use a brush, and I'm just going to brush over that area. I'm just going to reduce the blacks. It's too black. Just going to lighten it up, just like that. So I've just lightened it up. Not too much. And it's after spilling over. So I am going to just brush that out. There's the brush. The minus. Just spilled over slightly. Okay. G over there. Okay. Okay, so I want to darken this down a little bit more. I want to darken that down a little bit more anyway, because there's too much shine through there. So, I actually think I did that in Camera Raw, actually. So I have a little shortcut here for Camera Raw. You can go up here and you can go Filter. Camera Raw, it's there also. And I'm just going to get the brush. I'm sorry, no, but I'm just trying to think over how I actually process the image. So because I have a pen, it's a pen on the tablet. It's very easy to you know, to brush. And when you're brushing, if you have you should have detect, I think it's detect edges or something up there. It's slightly different in here. I'm just going to brush. And we're going to reduce the I'll dodge and burn this also. Reduce the size of brush. Okay, over here. So this area is too bright, and I just really want to take it down. What we could do is we could use the curve actually to take that down. That's it. Just use the curve to take it down. Okay, we're getting there. Maybe it's, yeah, we're getting there. Okay, it's okay. I use the dodge and burn tool quite a lot. I use the dodge and burn tool quite a lot, and they're over here. So dodge is for brightening, and burn is for darkening. I'm going to take down the midtones. That's kind of a midtone, and I want to take down this area because I wanted to make it all even, and I'm taking that down at 5%. And when I have the midtones taken down, I'll just want to balance out this area. That's all basically. It might seem like an awful lot of work, but I just switch to the shadows. Doing this kind of quickly now. And what we'll do is we'll get some detail back in this area later. Okay. Right. Pretty good. If we look at where we started, and that's where we are now. Okay, I want to get a bit of detail back in the Mont Saint Michel. So I'm going to zoom in. So how I do this, I will dodge this. So it doesn't have to be anything fantastic because it actually is so small. And there isn't much detail in there. So we're going to dodge the shadows. We're going to save 5%. So I'm just going into certain areas. And I want to add a little bit more depth into it, basically. Just depth. I want it to stand out. I don't want it looking like a block of black nothing, basically. I just want it to be able to, you know, oh yeah, there is something there. There is a little bit, I just want a bit of definition. So I'll go with the shadows first, and then when I have the shadows so far, I will go in then and do the midtones. I won't go at the highlights. No, we'll go to midtones. And these are the areas now that will stand out with the midtones. Just might be difficult to see now, but when we see the finished result. Okay, let's have a look at the dodging. Yeah. I'm going to come back out to see what it looks like. So now there's a little bit more definition there, as you can see. And you could carry on, you know, if you wanted. You could go as far as we all know. Sometimes we take things too far and it's hard to know where to stop. Far off it, I'd say, to be honest. So I use luminosity masks basically for contrast. So this is the Tony Kuiper panel, and I just use these. They're basically for contrast. So 1 to 6 on the left hand side here is all the darks. 1 to 6 on the right is all the brights. And 1, 2, and 3 down here, they're the midtones. So they're basically just allowing me to select the blacks, the midtones, and the brights. So let's say I want to select the blacks. So everything now that's white will be selected to some extent. Everything that's white, and you can make very, very fine selections. So any adjustment that I make will only be made to these white areas. So usually I tend to go, okay, I'm going to make a selection on the darks. Sorry. And I'm going to make a selection and I'm going to do a levels adjustment. And I'm going to move the white point in the blacks. So if I move the white point, you can see the tonal value is now changing. Okay, so these are all the black pixels and I'm adjusting those. So usually you never kind of bring it. I'm watching the tones. Because this went very black earlier. So I'm just watching the tones and I'll bring it back slightly like that. So if we look at that very small adjustment, it's very, very small. But that's all we need, a small adjustment. And the next one I'm going to make is for the midtones, which is this adjustment here. And everything that's white basically is going to be selected. And I'm going to do a very small adjustment on those. And you can see there are white values missing. So it's very, very fine for contrast. And it's a case of moving it, you know. Am I happy with that? Turn it on. So you can see that's added punch.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that. Usually when I move the white slider, obviously the gray slider goes as well. This is the black slider. If you move this in, it gets very black. So blacks. So this is your histogram. It's like the histogram that you see on the back of the camera, you know, when you take a shot. The histogram you're all supposed to be looking at to check your exposure. So that's your histogram, and that's your histogram for just the midtones. You know, basically that's it. So I'm just adjusting the midtones. So I could make the midtones darker if I move that slider. I'll make the midtones brighter if I move that slider. So generally, I'll push the white one and I might bring back that one, but that's giving me more black than I actually want. So I think in this one, I'll just move the white slider. Alright, okay. I think I like that contrast. Just, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, we'll just flatten. Now, the other thing that I look at, especially if I'm printing, it might be a little bit darker on the bottom than it is in the sky. Usually, a good way of looking at this is if you make it smaller. I think it's okay. It looks balanced. If you make it smaller like that, And if there's anything astray, you're gonna, if it doesn't look right, you're gonna see it straight away. One final thing that I will do is I will make a curves adjustment and I'll fade the blacks. So I fade the blacks. So when I say fade the blacks, you've all seen like the old film style, where the blacks are kind of matted out. So basically how we can do that is very, very simple, is we can just lift the curve up and you can see we start to fade. It fades it out. Okay. So I'll just lift the curve up a little bit and it gives me a little bit of detail back. And when I lift it up here, I'll pull it back down there. And that's my black faded. So what that does for me is that ensures that when I go to print this, that I have detail in the blacks. Even though it's a very black and white image, it ensures, because my black point isn't touching, that I faded the blacks out and I have details. So yeah, that's that image. If anyone wants to come in and talk about that, you're quite welcome. And you can see, my news might have faded it out a bit too much there now, so they pull that one down. It's there's no right or wrong way in contrast. It's all about what you want, But the reason I do this is so I can print. I'd be very conscious about printing it if I didn't fade out the black point. Okay, any questions, guys?
Rodney, Kieran here. I'm just wondering, do you go near texture and clarity in any of those maps?
Very, very rare, Kieran. Very rare. I prefer to work on the tones, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you can get to work, essentially what you're doing with clarity like scrunches the mid-tones. We'll give this a shot of clarity here now, look. And there's nothing wrong with it, nothing at all wrong with it. Absolutely. We'll give this a shot of clarity. See?
Yeah.
It's gone at the mid-tones, and what it's doing is it's like scrunching them together.
Okay.
And that's perfectly fine if you like that, but what we can do is, we can do that as well. We can do that as well by doing what I just did there.
Yeah.
So for anyone that uses Photoshop, I'm just going to take this in. Moving the black point and moving the white point is the very same thing. It's the very same thing as levels. So if we just convert this to black and white, which is, where is that? Use the camera raw. We'll just switch it to black and white. You see, I have my own way of doing things, so we'll just switch to black and white. No. We'll just talk about moving the black point and moving the white point. For me, this is probably the most useful thing that I have, in kind of my arsenal for getting used of. So the blacks. So we move the blacks, move the whites. Say we come down here. And I'm going to demonstrate this now as well. So we make the blacks blacker and the whites whiter. Contrast, okay? We can also move the contrast slider. For contrast, the blacks get blacker and the whites get whiter. In turn, if we were to take this shot into, does that cancel? If we take it into Photoshop, yeah, I want to just convert that now to mono. We'll just do a straight conversion. And we'll do a levels adjustment. Okay. No. Again, it's just the way I do things. Okay. So let's just say we're going to work the blacks and the whites. Okay. So let's say we do the overall image first. And your levels adjustment is down here. So in theory, that's where the white point is there. And that white point is probably down here. So we can push as far as that. If we hit the Alt key and we start pushing beyond, you can see now we're starting to run into trouble down here. We're now pushing the white beyond. We're putting the whitest point beyond white. So now it's gone into white paper. So white paper, no detail. So in theory, that's as far as we can push that. We can make the midtones. So these are your midtones. We can make them, and it's all about understanding what these boys do. These are your grays. So we're lightening the grays and darkening, you know. Now that's the overall image. But let's say that's very restrictive. So let's say we get rid of that and just delete that there. And let's say we work on the image in separate parts. Okay. How do I get it? Just close that down. Okay. Let's say for instance, we're going to do a selection and we're working on the top half of the image. Okay. I'm just going to select a mask and I'm going to feather this by, I usually feather it, we'll go by 350 or something like that. Hit OK. And all we're going to do here now is we're going to adjust the black point and the white point on the top and the bottom half of the image separately. Level adjustment. And it's the very same thing that we're doing. That's not feathered at all anyway. So you can see there's no feather. Okay, we'll repeat that. So just do a select the mask again. And that should have feathered. We'll find out. Yeah, now it's feathered. Okay. And in theory, we can go select, reselect. We can go inverse, select, inverse. And we can select the mask again. Just a feather. And we hit OK. And now we're working on the bottom half of the image. And I find all these things very beneficial. And it's the exact same as, and I'm going to do the exact same now inside in Lightroom. Okay. On this image. So here we have it. I'm going to do the exact same in here. I'm just going to reset that actually. That was the image. I actually shot this in square actually. So we'll convert it to black and white. Black and white. We'll just make the exposure up a small bit. We will use a grad filter on the sky. And it's the exact same thing that we've just done. The black point and the white point. And we'll do another mask, another filter. And it's about understanding. No, it's about, for me, that's what I play with all the time. You know, say if I was to edit this image, the link I want to create really is there. Look, that's the link I want to create. So we'll continue. We'll continue in here just to edit this. So, quite often I used a radial filter to create to what I call a link. So to link those two together. Okay. So this is what I want to link. So I'm going to inverse that. No, I'm bringing, if that makes sense for me, this is where I want the viewer to go. I want them to go here. You know, that's the area. And what I might do now is I think that's okay. I'll darken down the foreground a little bit. This is kind of my signature, I suppose, you know, brightening and darkening. Might just bring the blacks out a little bit, just like that. that's kind of that. I'll be honest with you. You could stay tinkering with it for. Will I bring the sky down a little bit? Again, what I might do is I might just bring this into Photoshop and just show you a little bit of a finer. So we go edit in Photoshop. Just show you the finer adjustments with the luminosity masks. Oh, it's coming in there. Okay, so we'll just go to luminosity masks. And again, I'm just going to look at the blacks. And I'm going to look at a levels adjustment on the blacks. And this is just for real fine adjustment. I'm going to look at the midtones. This is my usual kind of workflow. So you can see we have much. I actually prefer that now. I really like that actually. I couldn't get that far now in Lightroom. And in general, it's my kind of it's the way I kind of go. I kind of, you know, I'll do most of my work inside and I'll do my work in Lightroom and then I'll bring it in here to what I call polish it off. I'll just use the remove tool there, make that bigger, get rid of him. Okay, so I have within this TK panel there's a very useful kind of, they have actions in there, and if you make selections, you know, the actions are very, so there's one here, it's called freehand vignette. So if I make a selection, no matter where I select it, and I hit that, it darkens around the selection and it feathers it and everything. So let's just say we'll do that. And we hit freehand vignette and it darkens outside. And it does a very good job. You can see that there, look. And if you were to duplicate that, that should have duplicated. It doubles the effect. You know, so you can be nice and moody, you know. Yeah, let's go with that. Just flatten. I'd highly recommend these panels. And again, what we'll do is we'll fade the blacks just in case it's gone totally mad. Just fade out the black a little bit. Put it down here. And what that does, like as I say, it allows me to print. It was black. So we go down a small bit here. See, that's nice, but I'd have trouble printing that. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of things. Do you guys want to come in and ask a few questions before I carry on? Where are you going to?
Would you shoot in black and white with the intention of it?
I would, yeah, I would. Who am I talking to there?
Tony here.
Hi, Tony Coakley. Hi, Tony. Yeah, I would. You know, if I feel, you know, it's set up for black and white, I will, because what it helps me then, it helps me to develop it. You know, it helps me. The way I have my camera set up for black and white, actually, I have it. I have the contrast up in it, so I go in to the settings in the camera and I shoot the contrast up as high as I can. And what that does then, you know, it allows me to see lines like this. You know, I see the blacks and I see the whites, and you can see it directly in front of you. You can see the shape and form directly in front of you, and that really helps, especially if you're shooting in, you know, long exposures. You know, I highly recommend it, and it just shows you how far you can push it if you want to. You know, because you might get something that, you know, you wouldn't have normally taken. You know.
Yeah.
Anyone else, guys? Do you find this is probably very different now to maybe what you might do yourselves, you know? And I totally get that. You know, but you know, it's always beneficial to see how other people do stuff, you know. If you only take one small point. One thing I look at quite a lot is, you know, so take the sleeping giant there in the distance. And I kind of I look at this quite a lot, and I incorporate it into my you know, in my workflow. Just deselect that there now. There's something going on there. So the sleeping giant, he appears far away because he's lighter. So if I tend to have more contrast on stuff that's closer than stuff that's further away. Say for instance, if I darkened him down, right, he won't look as far away, believe you me. If you can practice this on distant mountains. Distant mountains, if they're darker than a mountain that's in front of you, they won't look as far away. So I tend to keep objects in the distance. I tend to keep them, let's just say we'll try and put a bit of black into that. I tend to keep them lighter than foreground subjects. Now that might be a given in any sense, you know, but for me, we'll burn it. So we'll burn the shadows. So we'll just make this fella a bit darker. Now it makes it more prominent. We'll just darken him. Really darken him down. So for me, that kind of loses the effect. For me, no, I suppose it's in my head anyway, you know. I feel he's further away here, and now I feel he's closer. You know, it's a matter of taste, really. But for distant mountains and things, it's something that I make sure of, that I don't have any mountains like this. I try not to have them dark, you know. So that's just something that I look out for. Okay.
It might be a Father Ted rule too, Rodney, is it?
Pardon? Is that
I
Sheila?
think that might be a Father Ted rule. It is, yeah. I just think that might be a Father Ted rule as well, is it?
Or as in
The further away they are.
distant mountains. How are you, Sheila?
Maybe. Hi, good.
Yeah, good.
Enjoying this. Thank you, Rodney.
Good. I hope it's helpful. Like that's my aim. You know, it's not to it's not. I don't want to kind of do anything. I don't think it's not beyond. Okay, the finer details of the way
Could I ask you one question, Rodney?
Kind of course.
These are all landscape. Would you use the same principles for, like, I'm actually editing a photograph at the minute in Lightroom.
Yeah.
There's a Spanish Andalusian horse in a show ring, and he's strutting his stuff. He's a grey horse, and I'm wondering, can I use the same approach to create a black and white one?
I would convert it to black and white, and then I would hit the contrast slider to see where the black and white is, to see what part of the image looks well. Like the same as this image here now. Watch this. Okay, so it's black and white, right? But it's very flat. Look at the histogram. There's no whites, so there's no blacks. So we're going to push the contrast just to see what it's like. So you can see the images coming alive.
Yeah.
You know, and it's now you're getting a feel for where things are, and that's what it's all about. We need to get a feel for where everything is in there and how it might look. So I mean, for instance, I may not take it that far. You know, I may just take it that far, but I know this area looks well. You know, so it's a matter of pushing the contrast and have a look and see what part you like and what part you don't like. You know, like, so say for instance we go like that. So I'm only going that far for out here. Okay, so I'm leaving. No, I like the inside bit here, but not the outside bit. Just say for instance. So what we'll do, we'll push it like that. Then we'll get a brush, and we'll go in. We make the brush nice and big, and we'll go in here, and we'll take the contrast down the rest of the way. Work on parts of the image, not all of the image. If you work on all of the image, you're never going to get it, you know. So now we're going to take this area. And we're going to take that the way we wanted it. But we're just going to move the blacks. See? Yeah. Right. Now we have that the way we wanted it. No, we can add a bit of contrast in here because I can see. Can you see there's light and there's shadow? There's shadow coming in there. So let's say we work in there, and we do a brush, and we brush, and this is the area we want to affect. So we want to make the light stand out a little bit more. And again, this is all. It's not a case of taking down exposure. We know now because we've been pushing the blacks and the whites that they'll add contrast. You see? See how it stands out?
Mm.
Yeah.
And what we're creating is we're bringing back that three-dimensional feel where we're separating out the areas, you know? I wonder would I darken that down there a small bit on top. And that's just my thought process. I hope that helps. So what I might do is I might follow. Usually, I'll follow radial filters with the shapes of anything that's there. You know, so I'm following this there. So I'm going to invert that, and what we'll do is we're going to take down like that. You could do that. Do you know what I mean? That might be a little bit. I'm just to show you know, I'm just being a little bit. Let's say over. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Push that out. Don't be afraid to go outside either. You know. It's like you're shining the light. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Put a person in there now, it'd be lovely.
Much punch.
Which I have a person actually here on the next one, if I can get him. Oh, frick. Excuse me. Am I still sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that I want to get in there to this image. Right. So this was a shot I made of a friend of mine, Terry McSweeney. I think, yeah. So basically, when I ran my Valencia workshop, Terry arrived the day before because he'd been in his camper van, and we went for he was touring Spain, and we went for a walk the evening before the workshop, and so that basically is the shot, you know. So this actually, I spoke about making presets. You know, if you get something that you like, you know, and I think I made a preset out of this, and I have it. Fix it. I have it over here. And once I get something I like, you know, I will make a preset and I can apply it into a range of images, you know, that so that they all look the same basically. Anyway, it's over there somewhere. But I suppose look, what we'll do is we'll edit this one. So that's the fresh image. Okay. I think did I crop that there? Let's have a look. No, I left it. Okay. Okay. No, I've no issue with anyone using, you know, Nick Silver effects or anything like that. It's a fantastic program. But if you can get used of, you know, I'm no expert. I do things the way I know how to do them, and that's the bottom line here. But if you can get used to thinking in tonal values, blacks and whites and grays, and when you start to use the likes of Nick Silver effects, then you can really, you know, you can really push the boundaries then, you know. Is there anyone that uses Nick Silver effects?
Now and again.
No, and again, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, there's a feature in there, and before we wrap up tonight, I will show it to you because I find it very beneficial. So, I haven't spoke about dehaze, but dehaze can work very well. It's like a mid-tone slider, you know. But I don't think it needs it here. So, we'll have a look at contrast. That's not bad. That's not bad. It's quite bright there. So what we'll do is we'll hide that. We'll just bring that down. Small bit. So I like the way, I think we need to level it in it because it's, as we said, it's quite crooked. Just level it like that.
Oh.
So I think I put in a radial filter, and I think I went in kind of the side.
Very good.
So just move him there. And to be fair, you can do most of the stuff you want in here. But for me personally, that little extra bit of contrast that I'm always looking for, I just can't do it in here. And we'll just invert that. So I'm going to darken around. And straight away, that's made a huge difference, you know.
Lovely.
You know, it's made a huge difference. So if we go back, this is where we came in. Sorry, no. There. And that's so straight away that's made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Might have a look at the ground here, I think. Just to see, can I bring a bit of contrast into the ground? Just see, because I can see shadow. I can see shadow. Black and white. Might be too black. Might be too black. Maybe just on Terry. The highlights. Just close off the front of it. When I say close it off, by darkening down slightly, it just makes you jump in to Terry, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of that one, I think. And let's have a look, see what else we have. Oh yeah, this one here. So I made this one in the City of Arts as well. The Venice one there, I'll get that. Okay. So I made this one in the City of Arts. We were actually on the bridge, and we were photographing. There's a big building behind us, and the light was very strong in this direction. And I said to the lads, I said, just look, I said, there's people passing and they're silhouetted. I said, get out your long lenses and go under the sun, you know. So, you know, with this building, I think this is the hemispheric, it provided, so this was the shot, you know. So this was the shot, and that's kind of where I ended up. I kind of obviously I cropped it for better composition because I felt that was more beneficial, you know. I felt it was stronger compositionally. So I'm just going to give this a quick edit. How many have we on? Did we lose anybody? Okay. Again, we'll have a look at contrast. Look at contrast. And it's a fairly simple image, really. It kind of speaks for itself. The contrast is going right up there now. No, I want you to bear in mind. Oh, that's a Fuji actually. That's an Olympus. That's a Micro Four Thirds, so I can push the contrast surprisingly. So we're going to crop it just for improve the composition. I felt that this did improve it. That line there. Obviously, I want her walking kind of slightly into the scene. So just keep her back there like that. Yeah. Like the image. So, what did I do here? Probably a red filter right there.
Stop. Sit.
There's someone's doggy misbehaving. I have 3 downstairs. I'm surprised we can't hear them yet. Okay, so we're going to darken slightly on the outside. See how that draws more attention?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't think that needs a hall pipe. Probably better than my original one. You know, what's it about? It's about the lady walking. It's about this beam. It's about the shape. That's it, really. You know, I don't think it needs any more. I don't think it needs any more. Like, I can't do any more of the whites. The blacks are fine. Let's have one look at it inside with a little bit more contrast. Any questions, guys? There, talk away.
All good, Rodney.
Good.
Yeah.
So you can see my concepts are fairly, straightforward. Yeah, it's a matter of how far you see a little adjustment there now. Yeah, so I'm going to have a look at the midtones as well. Just here. Yeah, where are they gone? There. Yeah, probably leave it at that. So that's that one. So you can be fiddling with that for ages, and that's kind of where I leave things then. These are always my final adjustments here. A little bit of contrast and probably a curves if it's gone too dark. Okay, how are we going for time? Okay. So shooting into the light can provide shooting into the light can provide you with dramatic results. So don't ever be afraid of shooting into the light. So here we are. Here I'm down in Bilbon in Dingle, and I'm shooting into the light. Okay, so I'm just going to convert this to black and white, and by shooting up the contrast, you'll see straight away it's made for black and white. Okay, it's a bit blown out here, but this is kind of what you're always searching for. You're always looking for that natural contrast. You're always no. Let's have a look at the clarity. See, the clarity does a great job, but Jesus, clarity will destroy tones. You might just be careful with it. Be careful with that slider. Try and bring out those tones. Showing the way I'm showing you. I will give it a bit of clarity now and then. I will give it a lift. But I'm going to be I'm always very careful with it. Sometimes minus is quite good as well. Let's have a look down along here. Yeah, we'll have a look at this one. Okay. So this is a building. Obviously it's in Venice. Can tell you now the area it's in. I just know how to find it. So we'll convert it to black and white. We'll shoot up the contrast. Okay. So it's about creating a connection. So the whole idea is to create a connection from here to there. Create a connection. Okay. I need to just obviously brighten this area slightly. I want to create a connection. I want to tie these two together. So if we don't, they won't. Let's.
Oh,
Just try to balance those out there. I've actually never edited this image on the computer, believe it or not. It's always been on the phone. I have it preset on my phone. So this now is kind of putting it up to myself. So what we might do, I might give the steps here a shot of clarity. Makes them stand out. You see that? Sometimes I will do it, but I won't do it on all of the image. I'm going to tie these two together. So the steps are kind of going slightly like that. So we'll make our gradient. And we'll go on the outside. I think we're pulling them together. So what we'll do is, and I will subtract in brush here. So you can kind of get the picture. It's about pulling those two areas together. So darkening and lightening basically. And this is kind of how I'm always thinking when I'm editing. I'm always trying to connect different areas to other areas, you know, and that gives the viewer a visual link. I suppose when we started there was no link whatsoever, but we've created that link by brightening and brightening, you know. I'm really don't want I want the space in between darker because I want the viewer to skip from here to there, you know, if that makes sense. What we might do, yeah, I'll just take that into Photoshop. What we might do is we might do some Q&A there now in a minute, guys. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Because we're running at an hour and 20. Okay, so let's look at the levels just to see where the levels are. So there's a small bit in the levels. So this is what's going over here, look. Do you see that? That's burning out, definitely. So if we hit Alt, that will show us that that's burning out there. So what we can do is we can just brush those areas back out. So it's a white mask, black brush, B for brush, hasn't selected, B for brush. So those areas are in trouble. This is probably one of the first things that I ever learned in Photoshop was levels adjustments and how to kind of mask out the bit that. So as I brush the highlights back here, you're probably going to, that histogram should be, is it black? It is. Up the floor. So I just brush the detail back in there. A bit over there. We just have a histogram is going back. Of course, there is a way of selecting, you know, I'm not even going to go into that now. I could select that in the, oh, we were almost back. Yeah, it's almost back. So what we will do now is we will flatten that. And if you wanted to get it all back, you can go to the burn tool, go to highlights, and just burn that down. And again, get up your histogram when you're doing this. Just burn the highlights back in. Small bit, you can just see it there. So yeah, that's kind of that. Should I like to do a Q&A? Let me make that bigger. Okay. Feel free to come in there.
You make a lot of use of your radials and grads in all of these, don't you, Rodney?
I do, yeah. Who am I talking to?
Tony here.
I Tony, sorry, I don't recognize you there. I
Oh, you're
do,
all right.
I do. I guess, that's my way,
Yeah,
I find them very quick and I can get to where I want to. I suppose I can get the result I want to quickly, It's all, for me, it's all about darkening and lightening.
yeah,
That's kind of, that's it, how do I, like, say, look at the picture that's up there in the minute now. There's no way I could draw the viewer like that because the light would never be like that. The light would never be shining on the step. The only way really is darkening and brightening,
yeah.
That's kind of the way I approach my photography in general, to draw the viewer's eye. And I'll use like if we're out in the field, we'll use graduated filters,
Hmm.
if we're out in the field, we'll darken the sky. Mary's gone. See you, Mary. So I mean, these what we're doing here is basically what they did in the dark room. They did do this in the dark room. They give parts of the image more exposure and they give parts of it less, and they burnt and dodged.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it's just my approach, and it's how I think about black and white, and I kind of approach color in the same way, only maybe not as, I suppose maybe not as, I don't push it as much as I do here.
Mhm.
I tend to look for lighter colors in my images, but I also do try to avoid a black point. Draw very strong blacks. That's something I haven't done here actually. Anyone else?
Well,
You answered my question in that one. I was going to ask you about color.
Yes,
Do you use the same principles in terms of filters and
I do. Yeah, I do. Only I tend to go for the lighter end of the scale.
yeah.
There is one thing actually that I might just show there now. Actually, I spoke about the Nik color effects actually to you guys. I spoke about the Nik color effects. If I can get an image. Okay. So let's just take this one in. There's something in the Nik there that's very, very helpful.
Oh dear, excuse me.
So we'll go filter, Nik color, Nik silver effects.
Mhm.
So Ansel Adams, Ansel was the pioneer of the zone system, as you all know.
mhm.
And inside in this particular, we don't want that. So inside here, they actually have a zone system. I don't know, do any of you know that? But it's hidden away down the bottom. This is the new one now. Where is the bloody zone system? I know this is the new Nik. Oh, here it is here. Here it is here. Look, here's the zone system. See it? So basically, when Ansel Adams was printing, he had 10 zones. 0, 0, well, he had 10, 1 to 10. As you can see in zone 0, 0 is black, 10 is white. Okay? So if you have zone 0 in your image, you have no detail. If you have zone 10, you have no detail. So let's push the brightness. Let's push the brightness. Just mad. No. So you can see now I have zone 10. Do you see that? I've clicked on 10. So now all of this area has no detail. And by highlighting that, I now know that there is no detail in zone 10. So the beauty about having this zone system is you could come in and you could adjust your brightness down until all the detail comes back. There. So now you know you have detail everywhere. And you can see this is your histogram. You can just see it here also. So now we know there is no zone 10. Now our zone 10 has been reduced to zone 9. Can you see where it's highlighted?
Yeah.
Okay, vice versa. We can go to zone 0. So now zone 0 is in the blacks and there's no detail there. So what we can do is we can adjust the shadows until that comes out of zone 0. Well, that's probably too much. So probably the thing to do, well, yeah, we just leave it at that, really. I won't confuse things too much. So now we know we have a good spread of tones, and like also we can go across the image and we can see where all the other shades are, the other shades of gray. We can see where they all are, and we can adjust them all individually. So that's something I would. So say for instance here, what level is the snow? The snow there, can you see that? That snow is 9. So I want to bring the snow down 1. So I'm going to highlight 8. And I'm going to get a control point. Control points are here. And I'm going to take down the brightness, which is there, until zone 8 shines through. That luminance. Oh, sorry, no, that's luminance. It's that one. No, I've taken that down a level, if that makes sense. It's now zone 8. So you can adjust the different brightness levels. So I won't go into it anymore now, but for anyone that has silver effects, that's gone down a notch. If anyone that has silver effects, that's a great tool to learn to use the zone systems. Hope that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of it, guys. What I'll do is I'm going to stop recording there now, and stop sharing. Where is the recording button? Oop. Stop recording.